Hi, Melisse.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Welcome to GlowJob. Are you ready to get hotter and smarter?
I am so ready. I can't tell you.
Awesome. Well, we are ready too, and we're so excited. So today we have Melisse Shaban from Aramore, and she is the CEO, and we're just going to get into all of the advancements that they're doing in the NAD space. But just to kick things off, let's get to know Melisse a little bit. All right, so Melisse, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Long Island in New York, Greenwich, Connecticut. So I'm an East Coaster for sure.
I know that accent.
I live in North Carolina, and everyone's always like, I don't hear. No, I'm a New Yorker, a proud New Yorker.
I love it. Welcome to GlowJob, the beauty podcast that's more than skin deep. We're the only podcast to make you hotter and smarter. Wait, how long have you been in North Carolina for?
I've split my time for almost 25 years now. Oh. I actually I lived in Minnesota, ran Aveda for about 6 years, loved Minnesota, but froze. And then got hired by the Body Shop and moved to North Carolina, but always had an apartment in New York and had it up until COVID. And then just got I couldn't use it, so I gave it up. But I've always had a spot in New York.
From what Julie and I know, you have very extensive beauty industry background.
My whole life, literally. My father was with Revlon for 30 years. So wow. I literally grew up knowing nothing other than the personal care and beauty industry. When I got out of college, I was the counter manager at Macy's Herald Square for the Revlon business.
Whoa.
And it was I learned so many, it really informed a lot of consumer lessons when you sold to customers. And if Revlon wasn't really a prestige brand. It was more of a mass brand, but it still had presence in department stores back then. Became the president of Aveda at a very young age, and then went on to the Body Shop.
I love that. I honestly feel like every founder or person who's leading a team, they should have some experience in sales, right? Or some experience kind of engaging with the actual consumer that they're selling to. We don't often see that nowadays with this new wave of founders. I want to take it back a little bit. So you basically started Revlon counter in Macy's, which is crazy because nowadays you think Revlon drugstore, it's such a different vibe.
Yeah.
But then, so then you're at Body Shop, you're at Aveda, and then you go to L Catterton. So how did that happen? Did PE want you because they saw you sort of as an operator?
I met Michael Chu, who back then L Catterton was maybe $400 or $500 million of assets. Now it's $75 billion.
Giant. Yeah.
And we decided to chase birds bees. Roxanne Quimby was a very good friend of mine. We're both in North Carolina. We became good friends. She was trying to sell the business. I introduced it to Catterton. We chased for a couple of years. We lost out on valuation, but Michael and I had developed a relationship, of trust and and, that kind of thing. And so then we went on to buy Frederick Fekkai. And then we bought Fekkai. Then we bought the salons. Then that got sold to Procter & Gamble. Then we bought Strivectin and a bunch of other things. So I was with Catterton for about 10 years.
My mom and my brother used to get their hair cut at the Fekkai salon that was uptown. They were obsessed.
Yeah. Frederick is iconic.
Yeah.
He really was. He was the original amazing, sexy socialite hairdresser that everybody loved.
Wow, so that's a lot of experience. So many different brands, going from makeup to hair to body to skincare. So now you're at Aramore. How did you get tapped for that?
If you're in the business long enough, the business is huge but small, and everything is relationships. So my buddy John Rapogel, who ended up taking the CEO job at Burt's Bees, became a good friend. One of the investors called John about Aramore, and it just started, and said, look, we think we need some operational help. The science is brilliant, but oftentimes the skill sets don't translate. You can be the smartest scientist in the world and change the world. What we do on the operational and day-to-day business side is a little different, and they needed that expertise. So they came to me about 2 years ago. I kind of passed, said, no, I'm working on some other things. And then they came back to ask me to be a board member, came on the board, and then said, you know what, you have something here. And it's always the science for me. The industry, as you know, can sometimes overstate a promise and under-deliver on the solution. So if the science is good, I'm in.
So from the outside looking in, it definitely seems like Aramore has the dream team, right? All these amazing scientists. Yeah. You guys have very blue chip industry people. Mm-hmm.
But what would you say is the hardest thing about bringing Aramore to market, even though you have all the credentials?
It's knowledge of NAD and its value. So, it's one thing to educate on a new brand. It's another thing to educate on a whole new chapter of science that is not a fad. It's going to affect you. It's going to be in your life for the rest of your life. Everything has NAD in it, and it needs NAD. NAD feeds the mitochondria. You wouldn't live without NAD.
For listeners who may not be familiar with NAD, break it down stupid simple. What is NAD and why should we care?
So NAD is a nicotinamide of sorts. It actually powers the mitochondria. It is what drives cellular energy. When you start to age, and unfortunately you start to age in your 20s, so your NAD just gets less and less as you go through environmental changes, hormonal changes, the body just wears down. So if we can continue to stimulate cellular energy, we can't actually deliver NAD topically to anything. We are stimulating the body's production of NAD.
So I think, that's a great kind of analogy to how people kind of approach collagen supplements. Mm-hmm. Everyone thinks that it's going to fix their skin if they start eating more collagen or taking collagen powder. But, it doesn't do anything for the skin. It really just focuses on the inside.
That's right. And skin is very picky. Skin cells don't like much. They don't let sugar in. If you think about what fuels the body, sugar, protein, and fats, right? You eat all the protein you want. It's not going to change your skin. It's going to change your muscles if you work out. It's going to change other things. It's going to keep other organs healthy. But the skin barrier it's a machine. It keeps certain things in and it keeps a lot of things out. That's its job. So the healthier that you keep that skin barrier, the better and the health of the skin is.
I think that a lot of people, including us in the beginning, would think of NAD and this whole conversation around longevity, longevity science in general. They tie it usually to a very hyper masculine bro science vibe.
Yeah.
I don't get that feeling from Aramore, but how do you guys combat that story?
It's kind of interesting that longevity and the bro thing sort of linked. Because quite frankly, women live longer by nature. Women have a healthier, aging process physically, as we know. So I think the bro thing was part of the supplement craze that was going on in a certain demographic of men. Mm-hmm. That I always link those things to masculinity and testosterone and all that kind of stuff. So look, we're certainly, the education of NAD through that forum doesn't hurt anyone, but I don't know that there was that much knowledge about what NAD truly did for the body. It was more of a overarching, hey, let's muscle up and let's be more masculine and let's be all of these things that men aspire to be. And I think as we think about, by the way, those aspirations for women are the same. I think we all know now through education, and the premise of longevity is we don't start at a younger age. Our bones are going to get fragile. We need to build muscle. Being the skinniest you can be is not going to be the healthiest you can be. Being trim and being fit and all of those things. Running and aerobic versus anaerobic exercise, we look at it very differently now. I think this isn't a gender-related issue for Aramore. I mean, I'm older than you guys, right? So I've been through probably more life trauma too. But I think there are things that in life, as you age, I don't want to lose my teeth. I don't want to lose my hair. Mm-hmm. I don't want to lose my mind. And I don't want to lose my skin laxity. And I think that's true of men and women. And let's start at a certain age. And I think Aramore is the only company and the only patented molecule that can actually deliver to the skin. I think by nature, we tend to lean into a more female presence with product. I don't know if that's fair because skin is skin. I don't think men want to look like crap either. Right? So I think opening our minds to this is a topical supplement. I'm not talking about fine lines and wrinkles here. I'm talking about the health at the cellular level of your skin.
That makes sense. I feel like people often forget that the skin is an organ. It's the largest organ on the body. And so I feel like this kind of new wave of education, it kind of meets where the consumers are in terms of their willingness to learn. Because like back in the day, NAD, it was like a bro supplement, right? Like I'm thinking like the black bottles with the red text, and it'd be sold in like vitamin stores next to like, I don't know, I know you can't sell steroids, but like that kind of vibe, right? And like everything was about like virility and like the strength of your boners and like basically that camp. But now I think, I don't know, I think everyone is evolving, you know, like people's willingness to just be more educated about health, because everyone wants to live longer, better, is kind of how the narrative is shifting.
And again, to your point, it was about those things relative to a certain demographic, but that was benefit. It's yes, the benefit happens, but it's really the underlying health. You talk about skin being the largest organ, although my young son told me that that wasn't the case the other day. He was thinking his largest organ was something else. I was like, you need to go back to biology class. I know you want to think that way, but not true. But I think about when you think about benefit, it starts at the cellular level. Skin isn't the only organ that you see. You don't see your liver. You don't see your heart. So you're constantly looking at what's happening here instead of what's happening at the base cellular level that's coming up to here.
I love that. So it's like your skin is a proxy to track like how everything else is doing inside, because we can't open the doors and look at what's going on.
We understand heart health, right? We eat, we run, we do these things. We understand liver health. Whether maybe we play with it a little bit, but we understand it. But we see skin. And we don't give skin the same
like priority.
An acknowledgement that it's not what you see all the time here. It's what's underneath. You have to go to that level and you have to make it as healthy as you can. Your skin sheds every 28 days. So you're getting a new layer. If the cell base is weak, the layer that you're going to see is going to be weak. If the cell base is strong, if those soldiers at the bottom layer that are working their way up the layers of the skin are big and strong and robust and full, that's what you're going to see. If they're fragile and a little weak and they start to, as you age, it isn't over 20, it goes a little further than 28 days. Sometimes it can be 40 days. They get a little fragile. They don't have that energy. They're not being fed. And they need to be fed.
Whenever I think about like cell turnover change, usually in skincare and beauty, it's always sold to us in the form of like a retinol product, right? And I do think there's a lot of there's a lot of similarities between NAD and a retinol. Because like your body has to convert it, it's like a whole process, blah, blah. But for people who might be thinking, okay, like I already have so many things in my skincare routine. Like I don't want to like add another thing. What would you say is the benefit of like an NAD skin product versus just like using a retinol product?
So they do different things, right? That's the reality. The only thing that's feeding the cell is NAD. Retinol doesn't feed the cell. Retinol has a completely different mode of action. I'm not suggesting to you that you stop anything. We are not built to be a full replacement of a skincare regimen. That's not what we're doing here. This is accretive to whatever you're doing. Think of it as a supplement, a topical supplement, not hey, this is going to benefit your skin in the moment. I'm going to take the top layer of the skin off. I'm going to get you down to the second layer. This is going all the way down. It's penetrating the cellular level. It's creating your bioavailability of NAD, and it's creating production of NAD. I think the reality is nobody was able to do it because they couldn't figure out a way to penetrate the skin barrier. It's not that this hasn't been known. It's that no one could figure out how to do it, and they didn't spend enough time looking at it.
Can you give us a breakdown of what the lineup is for Aramore?
So when I came on board, there were some products that didn't have NAD in it, but they felt like they needed to fill the line out. And that's kind of just a commercial thing to do. I happen to think in today's market, the simpler things are, and the fewer SKUs, if they don't really do what your line represents, you don't need them. I think it's an old way of thinking where you need 50 SKUs and you have to have 17 steps. I personally I won't do that kind of stuff. I want simple skincare. I want to be quick and I want to be effective. So everything we make besides the retinol product has NAD in it. So we have a daily treatment that really delivers a high level of NAD. I would use this, if you're using a vitamin C, I would wash my face, put my C on, and then layer the treatment over it. I use the restorative cream on top of that, and they both have NAD in it. That's enough moisture for me for the day. And what I really love about it is the dry down is quick. You can feel the difference in your skin. And we have an eye product as well. And that has a little bit of illumination in it and optical diffusion and those kinds of things. And that's going to a little bit of a different skin, a little softer, that skin, as you know, your neck skin, your eye skin, a little bit different. And then we have a terrific supplement. And so we do believe in inner outer. We do believe at the end of the day, combination therapies are the future. And whether those combination therapies include other forms, functions, and formats, there may be patches at some point that work as well. So you're addressing the direct delivery into the skin cells, as well as gut health, brain, all of it. So we do believe in combination therapy. So we have a supplement as well that you can take once a day. And it's a very typical NAD supplement that works alongside ingredients that also address the skin.
So you have the topical supplement, you have the ingested supplement. Do you also think that, intravenous NAD still has a role in a routine like this?
It does for me. I think you'll hear lots of people don't like it. They don't like the injections, although I think GLP-1s have mitigated a lot of that fear.
The needle fear.
Yeah, the needle fear. I like that kind of stuff. I get infusions, I get drips. I used to travel around the world constantly. There was always I would always have an infusion the second I lasted, because I needed like that glutathione, the NAD. I needed the energy to keep going. There's not a lot of clinical data on this stuff, right? That there isn't. That's the reality, is nobody's spending $100 million doing a human clinical data and measuring because they can't. But I think these things are what makes you feel good, what makes you feel in control of your health and wellness. I'm a big sauna and cold plunge person. I don't know if it's doing anything, but I feel better about myself.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm taking action. I'm controlling my wellness, my journey.
It's actually kind of crazy how much like all of these like longevity and wellness things have just infiltrated culture lately, because there's the cold plunging, NAD. One that just always boggles me is mouth taping.
Oh, I hate that.
Do you mouth tape?
I don't, but I'm a very bad sleeper. But I think that would freak me out.
Yeah.
The Economist actually just wrote a piece on mouth taping, and they just had a bunch of doctors come in and debunk it.
Yeah.
And so they said, like in theory, yes, it is good to breathe through your nose, but in reality, breathing while you're sleeping is very important.
Yeah.
And it can be very dangerous if you interrupt that cycle. Yeah. So, that mouth taping can potentially be really dangerous.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. We'll see which one's I feel like that one is definitely more of a fad than some of the others.
Oh yeah, for sure. But I do like this notion of wellness is about, in some sense, control and
Yes.
what makes you feel in control and feel good.
Right.
And remembering that it's not a one size fit all directive for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people love cold plunge and sauna. Some people absolutely hate that. So I mean, to each his own is how I feel.
And it's what we ingest, what we eat too. Look, between us, there's a lot of crazy going on right now in the world, right?
Yeah, a lot.
But I would say if I see I have young teenage kids. I mean, if I see a bag of Takis in my house, I'm going to kill her. I'm just going to kill her. I'm just dude, if it's blue, you cannot eat it.
So true.
And
true.
I think a lot of that's gotta go away.
Yeah.
I do think we, as women, we recognize that now protein and fiber are critically important to our diets. My mother, I swear to God, was on a diet her entire life. Crazy diets, cabbage soup, that kind of stuff. They didn't understand that weight's a battle, menopause weight's a battle. No one likes it. GLP-1s are a godsend for lots of different reasons, for lots of different demographics. But I think being conscious of these things and being aware and knowledgeable, and also the food tasting better. Cottage cheese was gross 10 years ago. It was now with good culture and stuff like that, delicious. Fine, great. A boiled egg, great. I think, to your point, it's in our control. And I think we're more curious about it too. I don't know if you've had any experience with, close related death. You don't want to fall apart in your 70s and 80s. It's really bad. My mom got sick, and it just was like, God. And she was funny and beautiful and amazing and my best friend, but I don't think she ever exercised a day in her life. You know what I mean? It just wasn't in their DNA. It wasn't how they understood. And I think if we're going to live till 85, 90, 95, let's be strong.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be healthy.
I think about this so often, and I mean, this is like a medical term, but quality of life. Like every time there's like any sort of medical intervention, they always weigh like the outcome versus like, how does this actually affect your day-to-day life? Yeah. And I always think this to myself. So sidebar, I started reading Interview with a Vampire, first time reading Anne Rice, like ever. Yeah. And I'm reading this book and I'm like, geez, you know, obviously I'm reading about a vampire who's like a bajillion years old, but I'm like, I don't know if I would want to live so long unless like everything was going well. Like my brain, my body.
Right.
I can't imagine being 100 years old and just like, I don't know, not able to do anything. It's
100%.
So sad.
Yeah. And I think that's why like people care so much now, because like everyone's always talking about like generations are living older and older and older, right? There's like more and more senior homes popping up. Yep. That's why one of the reasons why Elon Musk is trying to make all these robots is so that they can help older people in their homes just do like day-to-day things.
And staying in your home.
And staying in your home.
And having independence. My hope, and I think we are really making progress on Alzheimer's. I think we really are making medical progress. And to your point, like we're going to live longer because medicine is going to allow us to live longer, and research is going to allow us to live longer.
Before longevity even had like a larger presence in the field of aesthetics, like I feel like a lot of people, like if they wanted to look younger or wanted to look better, they would just like abuse their bodies and their skin. Like when you're talking about like all the fad diets back in the day. Yeah. And so I think that they would kind of get that quick fix, but also like, for example, filler, right? Plastic surgery, 10 filler. Right. People are putting filler in the face to look younger, to make their skin look more plump. But now you end up with pillow face or having to dissolve the filler and all these like botch stories. So I feel like people, when they have this concept of longevity in mind, they know that, you know, a quick fix isn't always going to be the best option here.
Right. Right. And the challenge now too, as the GLP-1s, and by the way, most of that is really good. And I'm so proud of like Serena Williams and Oprah being out front and saying, look, I mean, I saw Serena interviewed on a show, and she was like, don't tell me about willpower. I've won 23 Grand Slams. I am and probably the most elite athlete that has ever played a sport, either male or female. Don't tell me about being in shape. My body wanted to be a certain size, and no matter what I did. And so I think the GLP-1s have been amazing for people to reach a better place in their life, both internally, systemically, and in an outward way. Now, the downside is, to your point about fillers, you lose fat very quickly in your face. So, you know, how do we offset that side effect? And I think part of it is making sure as we're doing these interventions, we're doing them holistically, knowing what's going to happen and make sure that we're keeping those cells healthy, enough fat in our face so that that doesn't happen, right? And I think if you're on a GLP-1, you should be using Aramore. You should be using the product because it's going to help alleviate some of that.
Out of curiosity, what other sort of like longevity interventions do you apply in your life? So it's like, okay, I know clearly you're an NAD, pro. You
cold plunge.
Yeah. What else?
You know, I work on my sleep. I'm not a great sleeper. And I think that's another industry that we're all struggling with. I am very hypersensitive about diet, even though my kid is eating a blue food. I really changed how I thought about diet. I've always been protein heavy. I'm more of a salty girl than I am a sweet girl, but I really have changed my intake of food. So I start every day with some cottage cheese. I then navigate down. I'm eating a lot of this new tuna brand that I really love. I'm doing a little bit of supplementation. I will tell you, I should be much better about the skin on my body than I am, because you get drier with the GLP-1s, you get drier with age, you get drier as you get older. So we have to moisturize our skin topically, and Aramore will address cellular health and body.
So how do you go about actually figuring out what you need? So I know a lot of people, maybe they'll just go to like a regular doctor. Are there certain things that people can go and do to actually figure out like, oh, what should I be adding to my routine to increase my longevity?
I mean, look, I also think with women, you know, the hormone conversation is a really interesting conversation, right? I never went on hormones. I had a hysterectomy at 45 that was pretty traumatic. I was able to I was not surgically induced into menopause, so I was able to last a long time. I didn't have huge symptoms, but I probably should have been putting testosterone back in my body, but my gynecologist didn't believe in it. So I think what women can do is really explore that side of things as well. Unfortunately, and Cindy Eckhart talks about this a lot, we have not been, you know, our health has not been researched enough. There isn't enough data to really, and by the way, we're living longer and no one's done any research on that. So finding ways to get us through the last maybe third of our life. We go 0 to 30. That's the young years. Those are the fun years. 30 to 60. Those are the kid years. You're building families. You're extending families. 60 to 90. What does it look like? We don't put a lot of energy into that, and we need to. That's a whole demographic. And by the way, they got a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they want to spend.
That's so true. They do want to spend.
They want to spend, and they want to be talked to.
Yes.
Don't leave me out of the conversation. I can't look 30. And I can't do the things that I did when I was 30. And God, maybe I don't want to do a lot of that.
Yeah, I often wonder why that demographic is often so left out, especially in like beauty conversations, because it's so true. Like that is a demographic that has the money and the time to spend. And also like, you know, there are all these trends that like elderly people spend so much time on their phones. Have you seen these trends?
Yeah.
And I always just wonder why are they not in marketing campaigns?
Yeah.
Like I feel like they're starting to pop up a little bit more here and there. There was recently like Sarah's cereal, something like that.
Yeah,
but you know, it's a beauty line for women over 50.
She's great, by the way.
Amazing. Right. So like, why do you think they're left out?
I think because, you know, sex sells and youth sells. And I think that this industry for 100,000 years has basically said, I'm going to scare you into purchase products. I'm going to create, you know, genetically gifted women. I'm going to put Cindy Crawford, God love her, you know, out there. And I'm going to tell you, if you use this product, you could potentially look like that. That's the implication. As women get older, they become less desirable through the prism of a man's eye. And, you know, I'm married to a woman, so different take here. But I think now what you're saying is women are reaching a certain age and saying, I actually don't need you for sex. I actually like my girlfriends better.
Yeah.
Like, what are you bringing to the table? I need a community of women that look like me, feel like me, encourage me. You know, you're seeing more and more and more of it. I think companies are going to get braver and they're going to say, this community is looking for something different. And I'm going to be bold enough to get out there.
What do you think is in the future for beauty? Because we're talking so much about longevity, NAD, and like, what do you think is going to change in like, let's say like the next 10 years, 20 years?
Because we're actually investing in the science of skin and the science of hair, we're going to see more products, more clinical data, more investment in true outcomes.
I feel like the age of like kind of like vibes-based skincare is kind of going out the window now because, you know, you can get vibes-based makeup, you can get vibes-based perfume. You don't want vibes-based skincare anymore. But I just love how, you know, you've just painted this beautiful picture about how longevity isn't a trend, but a cultural movement. It solidifies that it's not a trend, which I think a lot of people, especially online, they're like, oh, what is a buzzword? You know, what should I try and sift through?
Yeah. And again, we have to be careful the industry doesn't bastardize longevity or make it just a nomenclature for everything. You know, that we do that in this industry, right?
Yes.
We confuse people. And it's our job in the press and in podcasts and in advertising to communicate that longevity is an aspiration. And it doesn't start with your age. It starts with your commitment. It starts with your understanding. It starts with your belief. To your point, almost a religion, if you will, of look, this is who I am. And I see it in my kids. I see it in my daughter. As much as she's eating the blue food, she's our skincare regimen and all of those things. She doesn't want sun damage. She doesn't want any of those things. And she's starting to now deal with it. And the other thing that I think it's important to talk about is we as women, we have decade changes, right? We're not dealing enough with postpartum issues. They're really important issues. We're starting to deal with perimenopause, dealing with postmenopause. It's every sort of 10 years, we as women have to conquer another change in our life. And I think it's incumbent upon science and companies to meet me where I am. Stop trying to change where I am.
I feel like a lot of those things that you were just talking about are like core things that Julia and I are obsessed with. Like we did a whole episode on science washing. Because like this industry is so into these buzzy marketing terms that sound flashy, but like don't actually mean jack squat. And so like, especially when it comes to the longevity conversation, like unfortunately, there are a lot of brands that use and abuse these buzzwords. And then like about the whole hormonal changes, like, I had this like one mentor tell me about like the way that men and women's hormones are like a man's hormone cycle is basically 24 hours. It's like every single day, it's the same thing. A woman, it's like, it's weekly, it's monthly, it's quarterly. Like we have chapters, decades, different hormonal changes we go through. And I know that Cindy is a friend of yours. You mentioned her before. Our whole episode with Cindy Eckhart last year in season 1, it was really illuminating to see like how different stages of your life, like perimenopause versus menopause and postmenopausal like changes can really impact so much of your health, but only now are brands focusing on it, which seems so silly because it's such a big market.
Right. And you asked earlier about, older women. Nobody wants to talk to them. No one wants to say, look, vaginal estrogen, and Cindy, I'm sure, talked about that, is really important at a certain stage of your life, because if you don't use it early enough on, then as you get older, your tissue gets carotid and you don't feel the symptoms of UTIs.
Oh, wow.
Interesting. She did not mention
She didn't mention that part. Wait, that's crazy.
Massive challenge as you get older because you don't feel it until it has gone into your
into
bloodstream.
your kidneys and affecting you that way. That can be very dangerous.
You will often perish over a UTI because you get sepsis.
Oh my gosh.
So you start knowing, and then like I asked my doctor, I'm like, I want vaginal estrogen. I want to start using it, just preventative. And she's like, well, you don't have a UTI. I don't care. I don't want to get the UTI. And if I get it, I want to know I got it.
Right.
So, again, these are things like no one is galvanizing this information and saying, okay, you, Dr. So-and-so, you may have not studied this or believed this, but this is what I'm learning from my community of women. And Cindy taught me that. I learned that from Cindy. And so again, like putting all of these women together and sharing these stories and sharing this opportunity and not gatekeeping this information, make your own choices, but at least knowing.
All right, Melisse, before we wrap up, we're going to do a little rapid fire of your game.
Okay. All right.
Our first question is a marry, kill question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Melissa. So marry, kill your skincare, your outfit, or your hair?
I would marry my, hair or skin is rough, man. I started a hair care company. So can I them both?
You could.
Okay, I'm going to go with skin.
Okay, so you marry your skin and then the hair, kill the outfit.
Kill the outfit.
There we go. Out with the outfit. All right, how about, can you name one beauty product that you cannot live without that is not Aramore?
I would say my Virtue Recovery shampoo and conditioner.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
My mom, who I talked about a little bit, who's no longer with me, but like best friend and everything, she had some hair loss in her life. And I saw it really change her perception of herself, her femininity, her self-worth. And I believe that Virtue is probably the most prolific technology that's ever been created in hair care. And it changes your hair. And I think hair is really important.
Yeah, I use the repair serum.
Yeah.
It is next level.
It's off the chain.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so proud of it. I'm not there anymore, but it was amazing. So that really is something for me that I really can't live without.
All right. So what is your favorite drugstore product?
I would say I'm a pretty big Cetaphil fan.
What's your biggest beauty splurge?
I get a Fraxel laser peel at least twice a week.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And it's a bad recovery. It's very tough. And Aramore is now playing a very big role because it's very helpful in post-recovery.
Okay, so our next question is, what is the bougiest thing you are obsessed with?
I will tell you, I do love some caviar.
There we go.
Same here.
I really do. Like, you got a big old can of caviar coming my way, and I don't need anything with it. I'm just down.
I love that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I literally have a caviar spoon. I got you for Christmas last year a caviar spoon.
I do, and I use it.
What's the most lowbrow thing you're obsessed with?
Besides blue food.
Yeah. I don't like blue food. I'm so not lowbrow. Okay. I know I'm the worst. I really am. And anyone who knows me will be like, oh, she's not going to accept the restaurants, everything. I would say my English bulldogs are probably the most lowbrow thing. They stink. They're grody. They pee and poo in the house. They're so bad, but I love them.
Oh my God, Melissa, I love that answer.
Yeah.
I love that that's your lowbrow thing.
I know, your designer Tom. That's so funny. Okay, well, our last question is, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Learn to sleep better. In my world back then, working 80, 90 hours a week was a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. It was the more you worked, sort of the bigger commitment you have. And I would say, balance your life. Really think about what you want your outcome to be and find joy. Really be in the moment. And I will tell you, when you age, and it happens to everybody, it's a blink of an eye. You just wake up and you're there and you think to yourself, gosh, I should have stayed in the moment. I should have stopped looking for the next thing and just enjoyed just where I was.
Thank you, Melissa. This was so great. Thanks for joining us on GlowJob.
I'm so excited to be here. So thank you so much. This was a pleasure.